So I am in response to this IT band prevent iliotibial band syndrome video that you just saw above. Not only is this not going to prevent IT band syndrome, it's going to actually make it worse. Using KT tape is of the worst things you can do for a runner. It's right up there with stability shoes, shots, orthotics. These are horrible things you could be doing to your body. And the more you go through my blog, the more you'll see me say these over and over again. But when you are using tape to pull on the insertion part, now if you look on the video where he says most pain is, he's pointing to the insertion part, which is right outside your knee, outside of your shin, right below the knee. That's where it inserts. But it's important, and I encourage you to realize and educate yourselves even more on what is around the insertion part. There's joints, there's muscles, and there's ligaments. So if the IT band is inserting on those things and the IT band is tense, which you mostly hear the word tight, but it's really tense. Tight is a muscle, tense is IT band, fascia, tissue. That means it's also tense on all those surrounding things. So the joint, the ligaments, and the muscles. If something is tense on those things, it restricts movement. When you break it down to the levels that I do, you really realize how effective something of restriction of movement can change your run, change your body, and create an injury, literally. I've had runners create their own injuries using KT tape. Just a recent runner who had never used it before a day in his life, but it had some knee pain. So, no, sorry, that's wrong. He had never had any pain in his life. He had some pain in his hip a little. So he put KT tape on his hip. And he wound up, at the end of the race, he had knee pain for the first time ever. Because the tape isn't doing anything but literally being a Band-Aid. So when you put the tape on the insertion and pull, you're pulling the fascia off the joint, right? But now you're gonna go run 13, 18, 25, 26 miles on that joint that's being pulled. So as soon as you take off the tape, it blows up internally. Whether you see it swelling or not, to me, is irrelevant. I know what's happening. So you just ran on a dysfunctional joint being pulled on. So it was like as if I had my hand around your leg and with my thumb pressing up and holding your IT off of the outside of your knee for the 26.2 miles you just ran. Unless I'm gonna live on your leg like that, you can't function like that. So as soon as my hand comes off, or the tape in this case, what you just dysfunctionally forced is now even more injured. So every time you use tape, you're making your injury worse. I had a person come to me for PF, plantar fasciitis. I'm rolling her calves. Now, if any of you have ever had your calves sticked by yourself or someone else, you know it's extremely tender and very sensitive and very painful at times. I was rolling her calf like I would roll anybody else's calf, and I'm not very nice about it. And she was sitting there with no problem. I happened to graze, and I'm like, why is she not moving? I grazed the back of her leg with my thumb, and I felt tape. And I said, what is that? She's like, oh, I have KT tape from my arch all the way up the back of my heel into my Achilles. I said, take off the tape. She took it off. I went one swipe with the stick, and she jumped off the ground yelling and hooting and hollering in pain. I said, now that was happening the entire time under your tape, but you couldn't feel it because you had tape on your foot. So imagine now running. She was like, oh my God, I can't believe that. I didn't feel a thing when you were rolling me the first time, and I can't even take you rolling me like that right now. It's just too painful, blah, blah, blah. You have to understand, you're putting a Band-Aid on your body. And when you put a Band-Aid on your body, you're not fixing anything. This is not a cut, people. These are functional movements. And if you restrict functional movements with any outside external apparatus, brace, sleeve, tape, you're telling the body, don't do it yourself. I'm gonna have something external do it for you. And then when you don't live with the tape or the brace or the sleeves, you're in pain all the time. So it's important that you realize this is not a prevention. This is not a prevention. The word is a Band-Aid. It should be how to hold off on seeing a professional to fix my IT band syndrome. That would be the only way that would even make sense to be on a video to use this tape. I'm highly against tape. I think it's the worst thing on the market. I have no problem saying it to anybody, any time of day. Do not use tape, please. You need to foam roll your IT band and correct the movement pattern, not use tape.